Hey guys, tonight we slip through a pair of creaking wooden gates just as the sun gives up on the horizon, and you find yourself standing inside a Tang Dynasty salt workshop where the air already tastes faintly metallic and warm. Lantern light puddles on packed earth, brine sloshes somewhere in the dark, and you can hear the slow animal breathing of boiling pans waking up for the night. You're here for a night shift. Congratulations. And yes, you probably won't survive this if you're allergic to heat, paperwork, or the idea of sleeping on schedule. The joke, of course, is that no one here sleeps on schedule. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, drop a comment with your location and local time. Somewhere out there, someone else is also awake for no good reason. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step forward as dusk fully collapses into night, and the workshop reveals itself in layers. The salt sheds are long and low, their roofs blackened by years of smoke. Brine pits sit like dark mirrors along the walls, reflecting lantern flames that wobble as people pass. The mainstream fact you're living inside right now is simple. During the Tang Dynasty, salt is not just seasoning, it's state power. The government runs a monopoly, and this workshop is part of a vast network that quietly bankrolls armies, roads, and palaces. Every crystal matters. You, tonight, matter in a very small, very specific way. A clerk with a brush tucked behind his ear waves you over. Before you touch a pan or feel the heat, you're counted. Names are marked on a wooden tally, strokes added with the calm confidence of someone who knows exactly how many backs will bend before dawn. Historians still argue whether this obsession with documentation made Tang administration efficient or simply exhausting, but standing here, you feel the weight of it either way. You nod, you're logged, and the brush scratches one more line that says you exist for the next several hours. The first wave of warmth hits as you cross into the boiling room. Wide iron pans sit over brick furnaces, brine shimmering like liquid glass. Steam lifts in lazy curtains, dampening your hair and softening the edges of sound. Someone cracks a gentle joke about steam baths being fashionable in the capital, and you realize humor here is less about laughter and more about survival. One gentle joke per hour keeps the mind from wandering, an unofficial rule, but a reliable one. You're handed a simple wooden scoop and shown where to stand. Feet apart, don't rush, don't lean too far. The quirky tidbit nobody told you before tonight is that some workers swear the brine behaves differently after sunset, thickening faster, as if the night itself helps the salt along. There's no proof, of course, but beliefs like this float through the steam, giving the hours a rhythm beyond the clock. Outside, crickets start their endless negotiation with the dark. Inside, the furnaces settle into a steady roar. You breathe in, taste salt on your lips, and feel time begin to stretch. Remember this feeling, the first moment when the night seems manageable, because it won't last forever, but it will carry you through the shift. You adjust your grip, watch the surface of the pan tremble, and let the workshop slowly teach you how not to rush a night that refuses to be hurried. The heat settles into you the way a heavy blanket does. At first uncomfortable, then oddly reassuring, as you take your place beside the pans that look like shallow moons laid flat on brick cradles. Each one holds brine drawn earlier from coastal flats and ferried inland along canals you'll never see, a mainstream fact of the Tang economy that quietly connects your hands to distant tides. The surface quivers, tiny ripples racing outward as bubbles rise and vanish. Your job is to skim, not stir. Stirring invites chaos. Skimming invites patience. You learn this quickly because the man beside you clears his throat in that gentle, universal way that says, if you mess this up, I'll be the one fixing it. You wait. The brine grows cloudy, then clears, then clouds again. Salt crystals begin to appear like frost forming on a window,
delicate and easily broken. You lower the wooden scoop and draw it across the surface, slow enough that the crystals gather without dissolving. The sound is barely there, a soft hiss, like a whisper telling you to take your time. This is where breathing matters. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Someone once joked that if you rush, the salt knows and it sulks. You laugh quietly because the idea that salt has feelings is somehow comforting at this hour. A supervisor passes, lantern held low, inspecting the pans with an expression practiced to neutrality. Bad salt means lost revenue. Good salt means the empire keeps humming. There's a quiet tax logic baked into every scoop you lift. Historians still argue whether the night shift existed mainly to maximize fuel efficiency, cooler air, steadier fires, or to keep production constant under tight quotas. Either way, here you are, proof that the debate has legs and sore feet. You skim again, placing crystals onto a draining tray where they pile into pale, glittering dunes. The quirky tidbit floating around the workshop tonight is that some veterans swear moonlight makes the crystals purer. On clear nights, they angle trays toward open doors, as if inviting the moon to approve the batch. Officially, this is nonsense. Unofficially, nobody stops them. The moon hangs outside, indifferent but bright, and you pretend not to care while secretly hoping it helps. The furnaces breathe behind you, steady and deep. Brick radiates warmth into your calves. You shift your weight and remember the clerk's brush scratching your name earlier, that small reminder of order before the chaos of heat. Tools hang on pegs, scrapers worn smooth, scoops repaired with twine, each one a quiet biography of hands that came before yours. You choose one that fits and feel a flicker of pride, immediately followed by the realization that pride doesn't cool brine. Steam thickens, then thins. You crack your first real joke of the night, murmuring that you've always wanted a job where the air tries to cook you. The man beside you exhales through his nose, which counts as laughter here. Somewhere deeper in the shed, a pan pops, and everyone pauses for half a breath before relaxing again. Safety rituals are subtle. Don't startle, don't rush, don't lean. Scholars debate how formal these practices were, but the rhythm feels learned, passed down without writing. As the hours inch forward, your scoop grows heavier, not from weight, but from repetition. You settle into a cadence, skim, drain, breathe. The salt piles grow, the brine level drops, and the night stretches like a long road with no milestones. Outside, the crickets keep time. Inside, the pans glow softly, patient teachers. You realize that this is the heart of the work, not the heat, not the taxes, but the quiet agreement between people and process. You skim once more, careful and slow, letting the crystals gather as if they'd been waiting for you all along.
Your stomach reminds you of itself right around the time the steam begins to feel thicker, as if the air has decided to sit down on your shoulders. Someone calls a brief pause, not a break, just a breath, and a small pot appears from nowhere, which is how all important pots appear at night. Millet porridge, thin and steady, ladled into chipped bowls. This is a mainstream fact of Tang working life. Meals are simple, repetitive, and designed to calm more than excite. You cradle the bowl, feeling its warmth seep into your palms, and take a careful sip. It tastes like patience. Someone jokes that the salt in the air seasons it for free, and you decide that's probably true. Salted tea follows, poured from a kettle that has seen better centuries. It's barely tea, more like warm reassurance with leaves involved. You drink it slowly, aware that this quiet ritual keeps hands steady later. Historians still argue whether communal meals like this improved productivity or simply made long shifts tolerable, but right now the distinction feels academic. The porridge settles, your breathing evens, and the night becomes something you can carry. As work resumes, a low song starts at the far end of the shed. It's not meant for performance, it's meant for timing. The chant rises and falls with the skimming motion, a work song that smooths the hours by giving them edges.
You don't know the words, but you hum along anyway, matching your scoop to the rhythm. This kind of music rarely makes it into official records, which is why it feels like a secret. A quirky rumor floats by that certain songs make crystals form faster. No one can prove it, but nobody wants to be the one who stops singing to check. Rules drift through the steam alongside the music. Don't whistle after midnight. Don't argue near a boiling pan. Don't mention last year's bad harvest out loud. Superstitions, sure, but also social glue. You file them away, nodding when an older worker gives you a look that says, "Trust me on this one." Historians still argue whether these beliefs were coping mechanisms or inherited folk science, but standing here, you decide they can be both. The chemistry of the night reveals itself slowly. As brine concentrates, the surface changes, tension tightening like a held breath. You learn to read it by eye, by sound, by instinct you didn't know you had. Fringe tales claim that phases of the moon alter crystal size, that full moons favor larger grains better for transport. Official manuals ignore this entirely. Unofficially, someone glances at the door again, checking the moon's angle, and adjusts the fire just a touch. An inspector passes through, sandals quiet on packed earth. His badge catches lantern light, a brief flash of authority, then it's gone. He smells the air, peers at the trays, and moves on. There's a murmur about seals and tallies waiting later, but for now, routine holds. You remember that earlier joke about steam baths and realize you've stopped noticing the heat in the same way. That's adaptation, or maybe surrender. A small mishap nearly happens when a scoop slips, splashing brine dangerously close to bare skin. Everyone freezes, then exhales together when nothing worse follows. Safety rituals kick in automatically. Tools are set down, breaths counted, positions reset. Scholars debate how often accidents truly occurred versus how often they were remembered, but the care you see now feels practiced and sincere. Time blurs. Songs loop back on themselves. Jokes get softer, spaced farther apart. You catch yourself smiling at nothing, which feels like a good sign. The night is no longer something to conquer, it's something to move through. You skim, drain, breathe, and hum. The salt piles grow quietly, pale and orderly, as if pleased with your attention. Somewhere between a note held too long and a scoop lifted just right, you realize you've found the workshop's calm center, and for a while, you rest there.
The night leans toward its deepest point, that slow hour when even the furnaces seem to speak more quietly. You feel it in your shoulders first, the way tension loosens when there's nothing left to prove. Fires are adjusted downward, just enough to keep the brine moving without pushing it. Pre-dawn cooling is a known rhythm here, a mainstream fact of salt work that balances fuel, heat, and human endurance. The pans rest between breaths, and so do you. Someone brings out the scales, their bronze arms dull with age, weights stacked like small promises. This is the part where precision returns to the foreground. You've skimmed and drained, now the crystals are weighed, portioned, and sealed into baskets lined with reed mats. Each basket gets a mark, chalk, ink, or carved notch, depending on where it's headed. Markets inland prefer finer grains. River traders like them coarse. You learn this without being taught, just by watching hands choose which pile goes where. Historians still argue whether Tang's salt workshops standardized grain size as strictly as later dynasties, but tonight the sorting feels deliberate, almost tender. You run crystals through your fingers once, letting them fall like quiet rain. A light joke drifts by that the salt knows where it wants to go, which earns a sleepy smile and nothing more. Humor at this hour is economical. Paperwork returns, as inevitable as dawn. Ledgers are opened, tallies checked against earlier marks. Remember the clerk's brush from the beginning of the night? It's back, scratching softly, confirming that what was planned has occurred. Tools are cleaned and rehung, their silhouettes familiar now. The quirky tidbit whispered near the door is that some workshops hid a small extra basket for emergencies, floods, shortages, favors owed. Officially, impossible. Unofficially, you don't ask. An inspector reappears, gentler this time, eyes half-lidded like everyone else's. He nods, makes a note, and accepts a cup of salted tea. There's talk of shipments moving at sunrise, carts creaking awake as roosters argue with the dark. Export dreams flicker through your mind, salt leaving this room to cure fish, preserve vegetables, season stews you'll never taste. It's strange comfort, knowing your night has a destination. Safety rituals close the shift. Fires are banked carefully, ash spread just so. Water is poured along brick edges to cool them evenly. Scholars debate how much of this was formal instruction versus accumulated habit, but watching it happen feels like witnessing a practiced dance. Nobody rushes. Rushing at the end would undo everything. Your body notices the change before your mind does. The heat recedes, replaced by a soft chill that raises goosebumps on damp skin. Lanterns are dimmed one by one, their light folding inward. Outside, the sky lightens from black to charcoal. Crickets slow, as if listening. The last baskets are sealed. Final counts are spoken aloud, then repeated, a call and response that locks the numbers in place. You echo when it's your turn, voice low and steady. It feels good to be included, to be trusted with the end of a long process. As tools are set down, someone mutters that dawn always sneaks up unfairly. You think back to that first moment at the gates when the night felt enormous. Now it feels used well, like a road walked end to end. You stretch, careful and slow, and take one last look at the pans, cooling, quiet, reflective. The workshop exhales. Lanterns dim further. Breath slows. The horizon outside softens. You've carried the night this far, and it has carried you back.
Dawn arrives without ceremony, just a thinning of darkness that makes everything look newly honest. You step outside the shed and feel cool air touch skin that has forgotten what cool feels like. The workshop settles behind you, quieter now, like a large animal folding its legs beneath itself. This is the final mainstream fact of the shift. Tang's salt work doesn't end with sunrise, it hands off. Day crews will take what you've made and move it along canals and roads that hum awake with light. You help with the last checks. Baskets are stacked in neat rows, seals intact, chalk marks legible. A supervisor counts once more, not because he doubts you, but because repetition is the language of trust here. You remember the clerk's brush, the first tally, and feel the circle close. Historians still argue whether such redundancy slowed trade or safeguarded it, but standing here, you appreciate the certainty it offers. Nothing is left ambiguous. The night is accounted for. A quirky belief surfaces as people disperse. Some workers tap the doorframe on the way out, a soft knock to thank the shed for not burning down. No one laughs at this. You do it too, just in case. The wood is cool, slightly damp, and solid beneath your knuckles. It feels like a small promise kept. Outside, carts creak as oxen shift their weight. Steam rises from baskets like breath on a cold morning. You imagine the salt traveling into kitchens, onto fish, into pickles that will last through winter. Export dreams now concrete. The empire tastes faintly of your night's work. That thought settles you more than pride ever could. You wash your hands at a trough, watching brine swirl away, and notice how quiet your mind has become. Jokes feel finished. Words are optional. Someone nods goodbye, a universal gesture that means we did it. Safety rituals conclude with a final glance back, making sure embers are truly asleep. Scholars debate how often fires rekindled after dawn, but today everything rests. As you walk away, the sheds shrink behind you. The sky turns pale. then pink, then something softer still. Your steps find a slower rhythm. Breathing deepens. Muscles loosen their grip on the night. You think of the pans like shallow moons, now dim, and the songs that carried hours forward. Remember the superstition about moonlight sweetening crystals? It doesn't matter if it's true. It mattered that it helped you stay gentle. You reach a place to sit, maybe a low wall, maybe the ground itself, and let the morning hum pass through you. The city wakes at a distance. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and the warmth lingers like a memory you can keep. The night is done. You're allowed to rest. The pace softens now. Sentences lengthen. The air feels smoother as you breathe it in and let it go, unhurried. You picture the workshop settling into silence, lanterns fully dark, pans cool enough to reflect the pale sky like calm water. Nothing asks anything of you anymore. There's no tally to mark, no scoop to lift, no rhythm to keep except your own. You imagine the salt, quiet, patient, waiting in baskets for hands that will come later, hands that will never know your name but will trust your work all the same. That's enough. The world often runs on nights like this, unseen and steady, and you were there for one of them. Your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches. The soft background hum you set earlier blends with the memory of furnaces breathing, now distant, now kind. If thoughts wander, let them drift like steam thinning at dawn, rising and disappearing without effort. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to fix. Stay here a little longer. Feel the ground supporting you. Feel the cool air smoothing the edges of warmth. Each breath is slower than the last. Each exhale a quiet permission to let go. The night carried you, and now morning carries you back into rest. Sleep can come if it wants to. If not, that's fine too. You've already done enough.